to this Ukrainian orphanage. Again, it's the largest orphanage in the country of Ukraine. So we really appreciate you guys doing that. Again, lots to do, lots of involvement, lots of ways to organize, and we've been talking about that all along about how you get involved, how you contribute to your community, the things that you do in support of others around you. It may not be political, it may not be anything other than you just deciding that you've had enough and you want to step up and prove to the world that humanity can win. Because if that's not the case, then what are we doing this for? Thank you guys very, very much. A few things I want to cover off on. Obviously, as you know, Matt Gaetz has withdrawn. Matt Gaetz pulled out of the nomination process for the Attorney General. And what I find interesting is I don't know if I would have ever said this publicly until I read this tweet. I'm psyched about what MTG said. I don't know if you've seen this, but because there was this delay or because of all this hand wringing and first of all, let me back up a second. I don't think there was ever a plan for Matt Gaetz to become the Attorney General. I think he asked Daddy Trump to throw him a lifeline because he knew this ethics investigation was coming out. So follow my conspiracy logic here, right? He conveniently resigns. They use the potential appointment to become the Attorney General as a reason for him to justify him stepping aside from Congress. Okay? So days before the ethics report comes out, he resigns his seat in Congress, knowing that the ethics investigation is only for active members of Congress, although I still think that report's going to come out. So he avoids that. He knows he's not going to get the nomination because he's a P3DO, along with everybody else in the Republican Party, apparently, and a predator and a sexual assaulter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fine, upstanding men and women. So now that that's done, it's in the rearview mirror. Marco Rubio will likely be the nominee or is the presumptive appointee for Secretary of State, and I have a feeling he'll get that appointment. He's not as nuts and crazy as the others, but he's just, he sucks. So that means there'll be a Senate seat in Florida open. You kind of get my logic. Ron DeSantis, unless he appoints himself, will likely appoint Matt Gaetz to that Senate seat. So, yeah, there you go. So that's kind of where I feel that's going to go. But anyway, back to MTG. So this is a tweet that she wrote. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is great. For my Republican colleagues in the House and Senate, if we are going to release ethics report and rip apart our own that Trump has appointed, then put it all out here for the American people to see. Yes, all the ethics reports and claims, including the one that I filed, all your sexual harassment and assault claims that were secretly settled, paying off victims with taxpayer money, the entire Jeffrey Epstein files, tapes, recordings, witness interviews, but not just those. There's more. Epstein isn't the only asset. If we're going to dance, let's all dance in the sunlight. I'll make sure we do. Oh, bleach blonde, bad built butch body is angry, and I'm here for it. Can you imagine? Talk about a an expose. It's like a 2020 headline story as MTG is the whistleblower on every member of Congress. Do you remember when Madison Cawthorn left Congress and he was talking about these nose-fueled orgies that were happening all around D.C. with members of his own party? So this is the party of family values. You have Matt Gaetz, a predator. You've got Donald Trump, of course. You've got Pete Hegseth, who's assaulting people. You got that guy in Indiana who was charged with essaying his own daughter and party. So that's the question for today. Is this why you're so angry, Maga? Are you still angry because that tariffs are inflationary and will cripple the economy? Are you angry because you know that mass deportation will contribute to crippling the economy? The Department of Government Efficiency wants to eliminate the to organize, to form unions, labor protection so they're not taken advantage of? Yeah. He wants to do that, and they likely will. This is all about Project 2025, the consolidation of powers under the executive branch. Is this why you're so angry? Is that part of it? That you voted for this chaos? People's rights being taken away, your rights being taken away. For the last 4 years, all you have done is complained about the price of everything. And last week, good morning, everybody. Last week, I had somebody in my space, and I said, "You understand that Elon Musk told you that it's going to get painful for a while, right? And the prices are going to go up. Are you okay with that?" "Yeah, I'm fine." "Yeah, because it's Trump's daddy. Because you've been, filleting the taint, if that's even possible, of the orange guy, wiping the orange lipstick away. This is what you asked for. This is what you've got. So is this why you're so angry?" Likely. Anyway, I do want to talk to Maga today, but maybe there's some people that have an idea as to why they're still angry. But this is the kind of the theme of today's show. We'll see how long we go today. Like I said, I'm not feeling so hot. We've got another performance tonight. Packed house last night. Audience was crazy. I'm going to be a proud dad for a second. This is the biggest role that my daughter's ever had in a show as a junior in high school. And if those of you have ever done any live performances, whether it be music or on stage or whatever it might be, there is nothing that fills you up like an audience when they cheer for you. And the place was packed, and she was beaming, and it was great. It was great to be part of. So seeing things like that always gives me hope. So that was really cool. Anyway, I want to talk about Nancy Mace for just a second. This whole bathroom bill in Congress is just performative. It's all it is. It's just fuel for the base so they can continue to run on these particular issues. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Because there were trans women in bathrooms in the Capitol during the Trump administration, during the Biden administration, during the Obama administration. Nothing's new. But now, because there's a active member of Congress, first trans woman elected to Congress, and you want to go after this. I mean, it's just, you're right, Kirk. It's just distraction. It's distraction so that they can gut the National Labor Relations Board without their voters knowing it, right? And just so you know, I just wanted to give you what the National Labor Relations is an independent federal agency. Again, Department of Government Efficiency, going after what they call, ridiculous spending or whatever it is within government. So this would be a perfect example of some of the things they want to go after. Independent federal agency that protects employers' rights and enforces the National Labor Relations Act, or NLRA. The NLRB protects employees' rights to organize, improve working conditions, choose a collective bargaining representative, refrain from these activities. It enforces the NLRA, which allows employees to investigate allegations of wrongdoing, conducting elections for their boards, deciding and resolving cases. The NLRB prevents and remedies unfair labor practices committed by private sector employers and unions. The NLRB was created in 1935, headquartered in D.C., and has 26 regional offices across the country. The NLRB is governed by a 5-person board and a general counsel, both appointed by the president with the consent of the Senate. Employees, employers, and unions can file charges or petitions with the NLRB. Employees, employers, and unions can file charges alleging illegal behavior, and employees, employers, and unions can file petitions seeking an election regarding union representation. So that's the NLRB. And Elon and Trump are going after it because we've told you all along, one of the tenets of fascism is corporate power enforced and labor power suppressed, diminished. Tax cuts for corporations and the richest, all these subsidies and all these government handouts, government contracts, dark money, Citizens United, all this kind of stuff is all part of this. And then this is the end result. Let's remove all protections for employees. Doesn't even have to be union employees. It could be any employee. It could be you, Maga, the company you work for. Part of the reason you have protections at work is because of the NLRB. And I would assume that you think that is just government's too fat, right? Pretty sad. Pretty sad. But this is who you are. This is who you voted for. So is this why you're so angry? It's just the nonsense of trying to come up here and justify your vote. And these are the things that we've been telling you all along, right? We've been saying this from the very beginning. These people that you're voting for are going to take your rights away. right? Now it might sting a little bit. And we talked about this yesterday and during our Transgender Day of Remembrance about marginalized communities have always been under threat. It's nothing new for them. And the reason that we feel, those of us who believe in human rights and humanity and the preservation of democracy, in part of us kind of want the whole system to crash because the only way that white people, in general, the people that are standing by this rhetoric and hate are going to feel it is if it affects them. So when you lose labor protections, when the prices go up because of tariffs, when our economy crumbles because of mass deportation exercises, when all that happens, it will affect you. And then who will you blame? So is that part of why you're so angry? Like you wake up in the morning and you decide, you put you gargle with your Listerine, you have your Eggo waffle with peanut butter because normal people would put maple syrup on it, but you'll probably put peanut butter or cream cheese. You'll have a Yoo-Hoo or a Mountain Dew, and then you'll decide, I'm going to own the libs. I'm going to yell at them. I'm going to scream at them. It's become habitual for you, right? It's become this habit that because you can't legislate, because you don't know what your party stands for, because you don't understand, it's no hate to peanut butter. I'm just saying, you don't put peanut butter on a waffle. It's no hate, Leslie. No hate. Love peanut butter. I'm just saying, if you had to choose, I would hope most people would choose syrup or syrup, as we say here. Anyway, it's become your recipe, your script. I'm just going to go after people because that's what I do. Because my party, my leaders do that every single day. Whether it's the BIPOC community, whether it's the LGBTQIA community, whether it's poverty, whether it's people that are on government subsidies. Now it's employees. Everybody is protected under the NLRB and everybody's protected under the NLRA through the NLRB. And now the government in charge wants to go after it, right? So really, is that what you signed up for? That's your recipe for the future? Now you got to live with it. Now you're in the find out phase. You fucked around, you found out. Weird, right? Box is open, everyone. Hey, Autry.
Hey, Facts. Things are coming up, and I don't want to freaking hear it from any freaking mind that's like, things are coming up, and those freaking terrorists get here. I don't want to freaking hear it. Okay, I don't want to freaking hear it at all. I don't want to freaking hear it from the Magas. Like, we freaking warn you. We warn you. My friends on TikTok, we freaking warn you. And you didn't freaking listen. So I'm just going to sit back and just watch a shit show. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Facts.
Thank you, Autry. I appreciate you. Got some spicy Autry this morning. You have a good day, brother. We got a little spicy Autry. He's right, though. This has been the cautionary tale that we've been saying for a very, very long time. And it's because, look, when you don't have policy, when you can't run on something, all you have is hateful rhetoric. It worked, right? We've gone through this exercise post-election, and we're now 2 weeks from, and we've been talking about how when your entire party runs on a message of hateful rhetoric going after marginalized communities, whether it be immigrants, and we know that the immigrants contribute billions of dollars annually to our country. We know that crime rates are exponentially higher among white Americans. We know that Donald Trump wants to ban birthright citizenship. I mean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just one thing after another. So your hate just builds, your hate just grows, and now you've gotten what you wanted, right? You've got the Supreme Court in your pocket. You've got the White House, Senate, and the House. You've got judgeships up and down throughout the federal judiciary. So this is where you are, and your response to it is not to say, okay, I'm going to hold my elected officials accountable. No, it's like, yeah, let's stack on some more hate. Yeah, let's put bathroom bans in Congress, even though trans women have been using bathrooms in Congress for a long time. But this is where we are. Welcome to America. Hey, Jeannie.
Hey, just want to put this out there. They have already said that due process is not their concern. They don't care about due process. So when they start passing bills to vacate legal court orders and people lose their legal decisions, meaning that a judge, you go before a judge, let's take divorce, for instance, because we know that many conservatives hate divorce. They think traditional marriage is a requirement. And so they're wanting to get rid of no-fault divorce.
Yeah.
What if they decide that a no-fault divorce is no longer a binding legal decision?
No protections.
And they vacate anyone who had a no-fault divorce, and now you are forced to either go back through the process of a divorce, pay for everything, have the documentation and the evidence that you need, or you are immediately legally remarried to that person you got the divorce from.
Yeah. Well, again, if you think about the, like you said, you talked about this, the nuclear family, or as Maga likes to say, the nuclear. It's the nuclear family. Husband, wife, couple of kids, white picket fence. Their vision of 1950s America, when women stayed at home and there were no protections for marginalized groups, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They want women to be oppressed. They want members of your community to be vilified, because the entire patriarchy is built on that. So of course they don't want to offer any protections for people, even in cases of domestic violence, right? It's almost irrelevant. They just don't care.
Exactly. I mean, they're even in the case where where domestic violence may have been a legitimate cause, there are some people, particularly women, who have sought those divorces in a situation where they had no other legal recourse. They were stuck because maybe they couldn't get any evidence. Every time that they tried to report, it was just ignored or pushed away. There are plenty of women have not been able to, that's what I'm trying to say, have not been able to get legal protection because the system was stacked against them. And so now they're forced into that. And you have predatory ex-husbands who are still harassing and going after their ex-wives just to abuse them, just to continue to terrorize them. They would be waiting for this kind of stuff.
And now they've doubled and tripled down because of the rhetoric, your body, my choice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is, that's the true scary thing, is that with the removal of due process and Trump wanting to militarize or domestically militarize the armed forces,
right,
and use them as a police force.
Correct.
Due process is no longer a guaranteed right under the Constitution.
Well, they don't know what the Constitution is, Jeannie.
Well, I know. But we can sit here and we can explain this. I'm trying to clarify to others what some of the next steps are. But with the domestication of the armed forces, and you were talking with Angry Dave, about denaturalization of people.
Yeah.
There are Republicans who have said that transgender people do not belong here in the United States.
I know.
And it is not a huge, gigantic leap to say that if they find us with false documentation, meaning that driver's licenses, birth certificates that we have legally changed because we followed the law, if we're in possession of those, they can say we are illegal and we can be denaturalized for that, because they will claim that we don't have legitimate legal documentation.
Yeah, I think people keep asking this question: Do we expect these things to happen? Government moves slowly. we know that, and obviously
Yeah.
there's lots of things, but I think we should start taking everybody's words for what they are. But, thanks for jumping in, Jeannie. I appreciate you very much,
You
friend.
betcha.
You got to
Thanks.
have a good day.
All right.
Um, Ghost Guy, you had a lot to say in the chat, friend. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you.
So I'm
Thank you
just
for inviting me on.
sure thing. So I guess the question I have is that your comments were very stark towards people, and I'm just wondering why. It's kind of proving my point because it comes across as you being very angry.
No, I'm not angry at all. You
Okay.
know, if there was a way to peacefully speak like we are right now and using your platform in a manner of educational purposes and trying to spread, a message that isn't, I would say, so.
Would you mind turning your background music down a little bit, friend? It's just a little distracting.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah,
Thank
not
you.
a
Appreciate
problem.
that.
Yeah, of
Appreciate that.
course.
Thank you. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, that's what we do here every day. I'm not sure you've ever been in my space before, but that's what we try to do. So I guess the question is, what are we educating people on?
Hopefully you're educating people on, you know, the issues that are actually going on right now, issues that we're facing in real time and
Okay.
not
Like
what
what?
ifs.
What's top of your list, for example?
At top of my list right now, I like just off the top of my head right now, where's the focus on child trafficking? Where's the focus on the policies that
Okay, so
allowed.
let's talk about that. Let's go through
All right.
one at a time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so do you have issues with Matt Gates?
I can't speak on that because I don't know who Matt Gates is, but if you could enlighten me, please do.
Okay, because you referenced. So are you talking about trafficking? So can we agree that trafficking and taking advantage of minors would be a horrible and disgusting thing?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Okay, okay. Did you vote for Trump?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so do you think it's okay for Donald Trump to tell a 10-year-old girl that he'll be dating her in 10 years?
Obviously, I don't approve that for any man to say that.
Okay. Do you think it's okay for Donald Trump to say when asked the question what he had in common with his daughter Ivanka, he said sex?
You're asking questions that anybody that has a sane perception is obviously not going to agree with.
Well, you voted for him though.
I voted for him based on the detrimental state this country's been in.
So what's
The
detrimental? What's detrimental about the state of our country?
Well, all right. For instance, okay, we have Republicans, Democrats, other parties as well. And, when it came time for the parties to designate who was going to be representing them, for the first time in history, Kamala Harris,
Kamala.
she gets appointed. Kamala, whatever, I apologize, Kamala, I'm from Jersey. I have an accent. I'm trying to talk to you, and I see some comments going on here. Like,
Just ignore the
people are
comments,
just,
man. You're talking to me. Just ignore the
yeah,
comments, okay?
it's
Just
just
ignore.
those,
I mean,
yeah.
if you want to talk about hate, I can show you the DMs that I get every day. So let's just ignore it, okay?
I'm not about the hate at all, at
Okay.
all. I don't agree with it whatsoever.
I guess the reason so you were talking about so in our system of government when the president steps aside, what happens?
Pardon? I'm sorry.
In our
Didn't hear
system
you.
of government, when the president either steps aside or is removed from office or loses their life in office, all those factors, what happens?
Yeah, well, the next step is the vice president steps up.
Okay, so that's what happened.
Do you honestly, was Kamala,
Kamala, you said it
however
right.
you want to,
Or you can
however you
just
want
say
to do
VP
it?
Harris if you
Yeah.
want.
Um, can you honestly say that for everything that you stand for, I can see that you're a father that cares about his kids very much. You
Absolutely.
speak very highly about them. You seem very involved in their lives.
I am.
Is that the first person you would have went to? Is that who you would have put at the top of your list to
That's a
put in
bit of a
office.
straw man. I mean, again, we have to look at the circumstances, right? So we had a choice between two candidates, right? One was an adjudicated sexual predator, one that has said that he has sex in common with his daughter, one that was named in a lawsuit where he violated teenage girls, one that's bragged about grabbing women by the pussy, one that's bragged about walking in on Miss Teen USA contestants when they were half dressed in other states of undress, a convicted felon, a guy that has marginalized every community out there, mocked disabled reporters, called veterans suckers and losers. Compared that to a woman who was duly elected to the district attorney title, attorney general, the U.S. Senate, grew up in the middle class, the most qualified person to ever run for the presidency. If
But
you're
that's not
talking
what I
about,
asked you.
well, I'm getting to my point. I'm getting to my point. The choices between those two, if anybody is objective, if anybody is truly objective, the choice between those two is just I don't see how you could ever, if you're a person of character, morality, any kind of common sense, there's no way anybody would ever vote for Trump in a situation like that.
So
So that's our argument from the left, right? So because the argument we get from the right is that Kamala, or many people say Kamala, would be unqualified. Well, that's an opinion that you've been told to think, because she is the most qualified person to have ever run for the presidency based on what she has done in her career. District attorney, attorney general, US senator, vice president. Checked every boxes, worked in every single branch of government there is. And you compare that to Donald Trump. Just because he was the president, he was unqualified before, he proved he was unqualified and unfit to serve while he was there. And since then, he's an adjudicated sexual predator, a fraudster, a convicted felon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
okay, now again, circling back to what I was asking, you believe to your core that for the Democratic Party that Kamala was the best choice to go with.
She was the nominee, sir.
Who nominated her?
She was nominated by the party at the nominating convention. That's how it works. It's similar with the RNC. It's no different. The delegates are chosen. The delegates get to cast their vote. They could have voted for anybody they wanted to.
Oh, no, I understand that. And who did she run against?
She was the nominee, sir. She was on the ticket. She was voted in by the voters in 2020 as part of the Biden-Harris administration.
Yeah, but I'm asking you for 2024 for when the RNC happened, and then when the DNC happened.
Mhm.
Apologize.
It's okay.
Who was she running against? Who was she standing against?
The delegates can choose anybody that they wanted to. Ghost. Anybody that they wanted to. I guess.
Yeah, I
I
get
don't.
that.
What I don't understand is that I've answered your questions regard to Kamala Harris, but you made a decision to vote for Donald Trump with all these things in his background, and the fact that he is a Putin apologist, the fact that he wants to enact tariffs which will cripple the U.S. economy, wants to mass deport millions of people, violating their constitutional rights. You voted for that. So can you tell me why you voted for that?
Okay, all right. So you brought up tariffs, all right. So we can
Mhm.
speak on tariffs right
Sure.
now.
What is a tariff? First of all, tell me what a tariff is.
Okay, so a tariff essentially is implementing a tax, so for lack of better words, on anything in this country that would be imported from another country. So the playing field will be level for American made or domestically made whatever's being pushed out, merchandise, whatever. So this way there is a level playing field for companies that are to the homeland putting out prices where they can compete to to businesses that outsource foreignly.
Okay.
And
Um,
by doing that, it can increase volume. And if volume is increased, American or just homegrown product can be sold at less of a price.
That's an
And
interesting. There's a lot going on there. That's interesting
yeah,
in theory, but that's not how it works in practice, Ghost. Okay, so would you agree with the statement that tariffs are inflationary?
absolutely.
Okay, so if you agree, have you been for the last 4 years complaining about the prices of goods in our country, the cost of things?
I believe everybody has.
Okay, so then the prices are going to go up with tariffs,
That's correct.
and you're okay with that?
For the long game, yeah, I'm okay with that.
So explain
If
this to me though. I'm asking. This is a serious question because I don't think you truly understand how tariffs work. And I'm gonna try to break it down for you. This is the simplest way that I can describe
oh,
it. Okay,
I get it. I know
I'm
they
not sure
work.
you do. Let me try to help you understand. Okay, so let's use a typical wholesale retail model. Okay, imagine the wholesaler is the exporter and the retailer is the importer. Okay, so a wholesaler will sell. I'll sell you as a wholesaler. I'll sell you a pallet of widgets. And for you to buy that pallet of widgets from me at the wholesale price, it'll cost you $1,000. You, as the retailer, will mark it up 12 to 1,250 bucks, right? And then you'll sell it on the retail side. There's your margin. All of a sudden, the wholesaler, because of tariffs, raises their prices to $1,250 per pallet. Are you going to eat that cost? Or are you going to pass that cost on to your customers?
That's a one-sided way of looking at that, though.
It's not, because that's exactly how the model works. It's tax. You said it yourself. It's a tax. So the question is, who pays the difference?
On imported items.
Right. But again, who pays the difference? So if the importer is
If you
receiving
want
goods,
to
listen,
if you want to purchase goods that are imported, then you're eating that because that's your choice to make. If you
no,
want to purchase goods,
so you're saying the importer eats it?
I'm saying the person that's purchasing the items, if you have a choice
Right.
to
The importer,
purchase items,
right.
please
The
let me just
importer.
say this. If you have the choice to purchase items that have a quote unquote tax that are imported non-domestically, that's completely your choice.
Oh, yeah,
If
you're
you
right. The
don't want to
importer.
pay
You're right.
that
But do
and
you
you
think the
purchase
import?
homeland,
Do you think? Hold on.
then
Do you
that's
think,
not there.
friend?
That's not a
Listen.
variable.
But listen, this is the part that you're not understanding. And this is the typical response from MAGA. Due respect. You're not there's a piece that you're not understanding or accepting. Yes, you and I agree that a tariff is inflationary. But what you're forgetting in your model is that the consumer is the one that pays the difference. Now you have in your mind that we can produce all these things domestically. We do not have the workforce to do it. And if we did, let's imagine that we have the workforce to produce and manufacture all the goods that we buy from China. Okay, let's imagine that. Do you think the prices would be cheaper or more expensive?
If you're purchasing things that are imported from foreign countries, obviously things are going to be more expensive, and that's your choice to make if you want to make those purchases.
Friend,
If you want to
I'm
purchase
talking about
something,
everything. Again, let's not dance around the issue. Let's just make this let's
you
just make
can't
this
throw
really clear.
everything into a pot.
But friend,
That's
but you
not how
did.
this world
No,
works.
but you did. Listen, I'll tell you why you did. Just try to listen, okay? We're having a good conversation. Just try, everybody, please keep tapping and sharing, and please consider contributing to the gifting goal. The model that you're talking about requires a few things. What is the main reason that we get goods so inexpensively from China,
Because
Malaysia, Indonesia?
they're outsourced.
No, from
They're
China.
out.
Why
Yeah,
is it
they're
that we?
outsourced because by all right. So
No,
if
no. Let me ask the question a different way. Why is it that when we purchase products and items and things from China, why is it so cheap for us to purchase items from China?
because their labor force is
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
overworked
So
and
if you want to produce a
overpowers
widget,
ours.
if you want to produce a widget for 50 cents, you can do so in China. Can you produce the same widget for 50 cents in America?
Absolutely not.
No, you're right. You can't. You're right. You can't,
Not
which is
not at
exactly
that
the
price,
issue.
no.
So you're asking American consumers to pay significantly more. For the last 4 years, all you guys have done is bitched about prices for everything from gas to eggs to paper towels to everything that we buy. Everything that we buy, you've been complaining about pricing. Meanwhile, inflation is right where it's supposed to be, but you've been complaining about pricing. Now you're saying because Donald Trump is in charge, now it's okay to pay more?
I'm not saying because Donald Trump's in charge. I don't care who's in charge. When it comes down to it, if there is a possibility that we can bring growth and prosperity to within our borders for our neighbors, to provide jobs and to promote a better and healthier lifestyle for the people that we live next to.
Again,
I'm
Ghost, that
all for
sounds
that.
really nice, man. It would be great on a Hallmark Christmas card, but it's not reality. The reality of what it is that you're asking for is you are asking for domestic manufacturing to be able to produce everything that we buy now from China, so we don't have to import all these things. And you feel like enacting 20% or higher tariffs on everything we import will solve that problem. We don't have the labor force. That's part one. Part two is Donald Trump wants to mass deport tens of millions of people, which reduces the labor force even more. So tell me again how that is beneficial to the American economy. Asking consumers to pay more because we don't have the labor force now, and you want to eliminate up to 10 million people from the labor force, which makes it even more impossible to get what you're asking for.
Now, coming from speaking in from a business perspective, okay, if you have the option to provide somebody employment,
It's
have
not the question I asked, Ghost. I got you.
oh
I need you to
oh
answer this
no,
question.
I let you get to your point. Please let
No,
me
I,
get
I
to
need you to
mine.
answer this question. Then you can move on to your point. Okay. This is the question I need you to answer. All right. You're talking about we don't have domestic manufacturing now because we don't have a labor force that we can pay 50 cents a day like they do in China because there are no labor protections, which, by the way, Donald Trump and Elon Musk want to do away with the National Labor Relations Board, which even means fewer protections for employees. So here we are. We cannot produce the things that we buy from China for two reasons. One, we pay our people at a reasonably fair wage, and we don't have enough employees in our country to be able to produce all that we buy. That's one. And Donald Trump and his team wants to mass deport tens of millions of people, which makes the labor force even smaller. So again, explain to us how it is that that benefits the American people, aside from the corporations who are already getting rich on top of everybody else.
Are you an employer?
I'm self-employed. I employ
Do
myself,
you
but I
have
have
do
employed
you
people.
have do you have families that depend on you for to put food on their table?
My family does because I'm self-employed. I'm the only
No,
employee.
I'm asking you, do you have employees?
I'm self-employed. I'm the only employee.
You're the only employee, so
Correct.
that's not even a factor in your life.
Yes, it is
That's
because
not
because I care about society.
that's not
Can
what
you
that
can you
isn't the
think about this
point.
logically, Ghost? Let's try to think about this logically for a second, okay? Let's try to
Yeah,
think about
let's
this
bring this
logically.
back down to logically because
Okay,
I
so
feel like it's gonna
logic says
skyrocket from there.
based on simple economic principles of supply and demand. If we don't have enough supply for things and there's a high demand, what happens to prices?
Obviously, prices go up.
Right. Okay. So then we don't have enough of a. Would you agree that we don't have a big enough workforce now to do what you want to do by producing all the items that are produced currently in China here? Would you agree with
See,
that?
see the questions that you're asking. Yeah, obviously the way you're wording them. Yeah, I could say yeah, I agree
Okay.
with that.
Okay. So then let's stay on this logic, right? So we don't have the workforce now, right? We also have federal minimum
But
wage.
why don't we have the workforce?
I'll
Can you
answer.
answer that first?
Sure, I'll answer. I'll get there.
All right,
Okay,
please
it's a
answer that
fair
first.
question. I'll
Why
get
do we
there.
not have that workforce? Why is that
I'll get there. It's
workforce
a fair question. I'll
not
get there.
here?
I'll get there. It's a fair question. I'll get there. Okay. We have federal minimum protections for employees. 725 minimum wage, which whatever that means, I think it's bullshit. We don't have a livable wage in our country because it's expensive to live in the USA because of all the freedoms that we claim to have, right? So we don't have a workforce now to be able to produce the things that we buy from countries like China, like Malaysia, like Indonesia, because they don't have labor protections for their workforce, in particular in China. They pay them below. I mean, it's ridiculous what they pay. They also have child labor issues in their country. So consumers around the world, governments around the world will buy cheaply made products. I mean, Walmart has just come out recently. Expect prices to go up in Walmart because they get a lot of their supplies and a lot of their products from China. And because of the tariffs, the prices are going to go up. We don't have a domestic workforce to produce everything here. We just don't have it. We just don't, and we never will.
Because we don't
Because
have the demand.
no, it's we have the consumer demand. We absolutely have the consumer demand, but we have to get it from other places. We have to get so the consumer appetite. We are a capitalistic society. We are consumers, which means we consume things, which means we want things, we want to get things as cheaply as we can. So we buy items from China again because it's so cheap because of their labor laws. They don't have any. We have protections for our employees. So imagine everything in your world. I'm gonna ask you this question: is it in your purview that you want everything that we buy from China produced in the U.S.?
I want as much as possibly
Fair enough.
that can be manufactured in this country
fair
to be
enough.
manufactured in this country.
Fair enough, but then you have to expect to pay significantly more for everything then.
If you are choosing to make those purchases
So what would you do
from
otherwise?
from foreign
If you
entities.
bought so like textiles, for example, like we buy red dye number 5 and things like that. It's not even just the finished good; it's all the other things that go into it.
Okay. All right, good. If you want to bring up that, if you want to bring up, if you're going to bring up the health factors
I'm
of
not even going there yet. We're
things
staying on
like
this topic. We're not going there
things
yet. We're
like
staying
red dye.
again. Again. Listen, Bryn. We're not going there yet. Okay. I'm talking about. I don't. You're either. It's one of two things, Ghost. You're either unwilling to try to understand the logic, or you just don't care, because you're asking us to accept as consumers. There's guesstimates, right? The tariffs will cost the average American family between $6,000 and $9,000 a year. Okay, $6,000 and $9,000 a year to the average American family, which means it affects marginalized communities is even more than that. So, is that okay for you?
Again, if you are choosing to purchase things that are made from foreign entities, you are going to pay the tax and the tariff, or the tax that comes from that tariff. That is your choice.
It's not
If it
about,
is coming, if it is
sir.
homegrown, if it's homemade, if it's made in this country, will there be any price increases on it from tariffs?
Friend, this is. Let's try to break it down even
Can you just
simpler.
answer that? Can you just
I
answer
will.
that?
I'm going to break it
Yes
down
or
even
no?
simpler
Because
for
you're
you.
coming at me with yes
Nope.
or no and absolutes, and
I will.
anytime I try
I'm
and
going to.
rebuttal
I'm
with an
going to.
absolute,
I'm going
you want
to
to dance
answer.
around the question.
No, I'm not. It's not. No, like I just said, the finished goods argument. It's not just the finished good. It's the raw materials that we have to buy to make it, like minerals, for example. Dyes for fabric. All these kinds of things we have to buy from other countries. This is the part that you don't understand here. So if there's a hat that you can buy from China for $15, now if you want to make it in the USA, do you think that hat's going to cost $15? The answer is no. It's going to cost 4 times that because of the cost of labor. You're asking American consumers to pay significant, not just a few pennies here, but significantly more. Just look at this. Say, for example, we'll use the federal minimum wage as the baseline. Federal minimum wage is $7.25. Now, if we just add that to the cost of production for a cost of good, right? I know that's not the typical economic formula, but for this argument, right? Compare that to 50 cents an hour in China. The cost to produce that same hat is exponentially cheaper, which is why we and other countries buy our goods from China. So a tariff is a tax that the consumer is going to pay. We pay the difference. Now you want to make it worse by bringing all that production in-house. Sounds great. We don't have the labor force. We do not have the labor force in our country to satisfy our consumable appetite. And the Trump administration wants to make it worse by deporting tens of millions of people who, by the way, work in a lot of these industries that you want to prop up. Make that make sense.
Are those workers working under the legalities of, say, you or myself?
So that's a different question. Are you saying we should?
Can you answer it?
Sure, we can certainly answer that. We know that through ITIN numbers that undocumented
Oh my
people.
God, dude. Just say yes or no.
It's not a
You
it's
come at
not
me with
it's
yes or
not a yes or
no's.
no. Well, you haven't answered a question through yes or no yet, so I'll just play your game. Through ITIN numbers, we know that undocumented immigrants contribute billions of dollars to our economy every single year. Now, if you're saying that you want to penalize corporations for paying people under the table, that's a different conversation. We absolutely, I would say, throw their asses in jail. If there are corporations out there that are paying people under the table and not reporting it, then yes, absolutely, throw them in jail. They still
Thank you.
haven't answered my question, though. We don't have a labor force now that's big enough to support our consumable demand. And the Trump administration wants to export tens of millions of people. So where do we produce the products and how?
The Trump administration on export
So again,
on
I just want to point
trying
this
to
out.
keep
You didn't
force.
answer my question that I asked you.
Because the question that you're asking, dude, you can't say you can't put into an actual unstructured ground saying, all right, well, these people who are not legally in this country, who are working for less than what they should be
What,
getting
what do you mean they're
paid,
not legally in this country?
the people that are supposed to be deported, people that came here illegally, people that did not come here through the right channels,
What's
through
the
the
right
correct
channel?
channels. Contacting your embassy,
You don't have to
coming
contact your
into this
embassy.
country correctly.
You have to contact your embassy.
To come into this country correctly,
You
you
don't
don't
have to
need to
contact your
you
embassy.
don't need to get a visa.
No, you don't.
You don't need to get a visa to come live in this country
No, you don't.
and to come work in this country. You don't need
No.
to get a working visa.
You do not.
Have you worked outside of this country?
Again, friend.
Have you
Listen,
worked outside this country? Do you have any experience working
we're
outside
not
of the country
talking
you're a
about
citizen
outside
of?
this country. We're talking about inside this country. Okay. We're
So
talking
if
about
you're coming from outside of this country,
you don't need
you
to
need
contact
to
your
get a
embassy.
working visa
No,
to
you
work
don't.
legally.
No, you don't.
Dude,
No.
if you come into this country and you do not have a working visa
Sir,
and you work, you are illegally working.
incorrect. It's incorrect.
Okay, then explain how that's incorrect.
So first of all, you talked about we're gonna finish our conversation about labor and the cost of goods first, and then we'll move on to your next topic, okay? Because we're going through your talking point list here. So now I'm not gonna allow you to derail the conversation. You still haven't answered this question. We do not have a labor force now to produce the consumable goods that we buy as a capitalistic society. We do not. We just do
Because there's
not
no
have.
volume.
We just don't have the labor force to do it. Okay. That's why Jeff Bezos is one of the richest people in the world, because he gets his products cheaply and consumers when we buy it. Okay. So we don't have
That's
the
exactly
labor
why there isn't a labor
hold-
force, though.
because
You
we
just
buy
said why there isn't a labor force, man.
No, sir.
You just
No, we
said
don't.
the exact
No.
reason.
We don't. No. We don't have the labor force to do it. We just don't have enough people in our society to produce the demand, to produce the supply to support the demand. We just don't have
So
it.
now we don't have enough people.
We don't
Really?
have the people, friend. We don't. And you want to make it worse. You want to make it worse by deporting tens of millions of people. People who, by the way, work in agriculture, home construction, manufacturing, customer service, food service. All these things rely on the immigrant population to support the labor force. So we don't have enough labor now, and you support deporting tens of millions of people because you don't understand the immigration laws in our country. You still haven't answered the question. How then, as consumers, do we afford? How do we produce to do our demand, and how do we afford it? Can you answer those questions?
Dude, it comes down to simple supply and demand and how to operate a business on a note where you're coming to a profitable end. And if you
Again,
are
that's
going
not. You're not.
if you are
Again, you're
going
not
to
answering the
purchase
question.
things
Friend,
that
you're
are
not
from
answering the
foreign
question.
entities, if you're going to purchase things from foreign entities to cut your cost and to cut your prices,
Yep.
obviously, and those prices are lower. Why are they lower from domestic? Why are they lower from foreign entities?
Because
Why
of
are prices
labor.
lower?
Because of labor.
What
Ghost.
kind of labor?
All kinds of labor. They don't, because
What
countries
kind
like
of
China,
labor?
because other countries like China don't have labor protections for their society. They can pay them whatever the hell they want. If you don't like it, they'll
So
find
we should
somebody else.
we should just put all our eggs in a basket from other countries and we should just blindly, oh, all right, well, you know what? They're always going to be able to, have sweatshops and make it for a lower cost. Like, you're good with that?
I'm not good with that at all. But we are a consumer driven society, okay? It's part of capitalism. You still haven't answered the question. This is your last chance, okay? We don't have the labor force now to produce these things that you want to produce here. We do not have it. Plain and simple, we do not have it. Even if we did, the cost of goods would be so significantly higher that consumers would not be able to afford it based on cost of living in our country as it sits now. Add that to the fact the Trump administration wants to deport tens of millions of people that will cripple some industries in our country. Explain to me how that's a good thing.
Dude, what you're saying is not a good thing, but what you're
That's what
saying is
that's
delusional.
what they want to do. That's the whole game, friend. That's exactly the game. Punish the American consumers because of this trade war that Trump lost the first time. Punish them because, and again, due respect, Ghost, you're just woefully misinformed on this topic. You don't know how this system works. You expect things in your mind. You think, well, we'll just produce it domestically, no problem. Cool. Then we're going to pay people the same wage that they get paid in China so that we can afford to buy the Trump hat for $15 or $20 or whatever it might be. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. This is what you voted for, and you don't even understand how it works. You don't understand how immigration works. You think that people have to apply for a visa. They don't. I would imagine
I
you think
said,
that people.
dude,
I would
a
imagine you think
work
that people have
visa
to.
to work here
I would.
legally.
That's not true. I would imagine that you think that people have to cross into the country through a port of entry too, right? To claim asylum.
No,
Okay, they don't.
no,
They don't. They
no,
can cross
they don't.
anywhere. They can cross anywhere. They can make an asylum claim. And because we have a system that takes a
What does that
very long
have to
time,
do with work?
because
What does that have to do with coming here to work?
because people come here to work every single day from across the border in Mexico and Canada. They come into our country to
Legally.
work every single day. And people that are contributing billions of dollars to our society every day without getting any benefits in return. No federal benefits in return. No Medicare, no Medicaid, no Social Security. They pay billions of dollars in federal taxes, state taxes, sales taxes, you name it. You name it. They make our society go. You just don't understand, man. You just don't get it. You don't know what you voted for. You have this fantasy that we can just turn around, suddenly start producing widgets on US manufacturing plants and expect consumers to pay the exact same price.
Dude,
It's just impossible.
that is not what I think. And
Well,
don't
you don't
for a
get you
second
don't
claim to even make any type of standpoint on
well,
telling me that I don't know
you don't.
what
You're
I'm,
proving it. You're proving
dude,
it. You're proving it, Ghost. You're proving that you don't know what you're talking about. You're proving it.
dude, you're taking things in all absolutes.
Dude,
You are
you're
you
you're
are
proving
not
you're proving to
you
me
are
that you
not
don't
looking at the
understand.
benefits. You are not looking at the benefits
Tell me
that
one okay,
come
tell me one
with
benefit.
all
Tell
this.
me one benefit. Tell me one. One benefit.
A larger workforce comes
We
to
don't
America.
have the workforce now, Ghost.
We
Unemployment
don't
is at
have the
four.
workforce because we
Unemployment is what's the
don't,
unemployment rate? What's the unemployment rate?
dude, we don't have the workforce
Ghost.
because if you can
Ghost.
get it cheaper from the
Friend.
next guy, you're obviously going to purchase it from the next guy.
Exactly. You got it. What's the unemployment rate now, Ghost?
I'm not looking at the unemployment rate right now, and
Well,
I
you have
wouldn't
to.
claim to
What is
know it.
what is the unemployment rate?
I did you not just hear what I said?
Do you know what it is? If you don't know, say I don't know.
I just said I wouldn't claim to know it.
Okay,
I
it's
just
four.
said
It's
that, dude.
4%, dude. It's 4%, which means the overwhelming majority of our country is already working, right? With that being said, we don't have enough labor in our country to support the demand for consumables that we buy as a capitalistic society. Therefore, we have to import products from countries across the world. Donald Trump wants to impose taxes on every country that we import from, and thus raising the prices for consumers. And you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
Good day. Hi,
Hi,
Erica.
Fa- Thank you for accepting me, but I just really wanted to talk to Ghost
Sorry.
because, yeah, it's okay. If anyone eats bananas, berries, avocados, literally all of those are imported. So I don't understand how he expects prices to go down with tariffs.
I,
Like
I,
all
I
the
I know.
restaurants.
Yeah, I tried to put him in that position. I just think there at some point there's just this willful ignorance that they're just not willing to accept it. I mean, literally, he walked into the point numerous times himself. So
I really appreciate what you're doing, but please try to dumb it down even further for them because I don't think he understood anything about widgets or anything about importation. I don't think he has a concept of anything outside of his bubble, you know?
fair
So
point.
I feel like talking to them like a fourth grader will probably come across better because when he doesn't understand what words you say, he just shuts down and he just can't take it anymore.
He goes
He
to
just kept
dude.
repeating.
He dudes me.
Mm-hmm,
He duded me.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Erica.
But
That's a
thank you
fair
so
point.
much. Just
You
kick
got
me
it. I
now.
appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good day. Bye. It's a fair point. Like I don't want to intentionally just talk down to somebody all the time, but sometimes it's necessary. Like I don't know how else to explain it any more simply than I tried. But and then for anybody who in the chat who is MAGA, I'd like you to be able to answer the same question that we tried to get Ghost to answer. This entire thing is really about labor. We don't have enough, and we don't have enough workers in our country. We just don't. It's not a question of people. In some cases, it's American citizens not wanting to take those jobs. We know that, right? Which is part of why we desperately need immigrants. We know our birth rate is declining in our country. We desperately need a larger labor force just to sustain ourselves. Never mind to increase. We've seen growth in the manufacturing sector. Thank you, Joe Biden. We've seen growth in alternative energy, the alternative energy sector. Thank you, Joe Biden. All these are great things, which is part of the reason why wages are going up, inflation rates coming down, unemployment rates coming down. All these are great factors, but we do not have the labor force to produce widgets. We just don't. Fang, you can request again, friend. I see you timed out. It's just this is kind of the point of this conversation today, right? They don't know what it is that they voted for, but they got what they got. Now they're in the find out phase as the price for everything goes up because we don't have labor. Hi, Ange. How are you? Ange? Ange, are you there? Ange? I guess not. It's just the weird dynamic here that people generally think that this we can just solve this by just, hell yeah, we got plenty of people. Let's yeah. Okay, good luck paying $50 for your box of crayons. Hey, Pyle, how are you?
Good morning. That one just got me.
Yeah,
Box of crayons. Um, yeah, no, I'm not MAGA, but
I
I
know. We
had a
talked
little
before.
epiphany. Okay, good. I didn't know if you remembered me or not.
Yeah,
Had an epiphany this morning as I was listening to you. One very good point about the workforce. Never even considered that about the 4% like unemployment rate. That
yeah.
there in fact isn't, which further drives one of the things that I was thinking of this morning was that companies are going to be forced into automation. There's
Absolutely.
no other way around it. So job creation is going to be non-existent.
Hello, it's like hello, Elon Musk, right, Pyle?
Exactly. So, and the corporations that are equipped financially to take on that initial cost of automation are the only ones that are going to be able to flourish in this environment. So, there's going to be even that greater of a of a wealth gap, and they're going to choke out competition.
Correct.
In addition to that, you make American goods and you force through tariffs to buy American goods. Well, they're going to recoup those costs of starting up that manufacturing, which is going to drive up the costs already.
Exactly.
They're never going to come down because the competition's not going to be there to do it.
Of course
So
not. When can you tell me a point in our history, Pyle, when prices went down for things?
oh, never.
Exactly.
That's a really easy question.
Exactly.
One of the things, the epiphany that I had this morning while thinking about this was um, recalling all of the grievances that brought us to the point that we are right now with Trump being reelected. And the grievances and all the problems in the United States have been reduced to such a simple um, a simple cause. There has to be a boogeyman. There has to be some type of bad guy in the situation. So immigrants, trans, whomever it may be. There has to be a target.
Of course,
And
fascism. There you
when
go.
yeah, exactly. But when you do that, when you reduce everyone's concerns to to a safety issue, it made me think of, what was it, Marlowe's like hierarchy of needs
Oh
and
yeah,
psychology.
good
Yeah,
point.
so even though that you may be higher up on that hierarchy, if you could convince everyone that your safety is a concern, you've just reduced everyone's needs to safety, which is at the bottom of the hierarchy needs. So they
Maslow,
are
exactly. Maslow. Yep.
Maslow, that's what it
Yep.
is. Yeah, so you've just completely negated everywhere where they were up top and reduced it to where you can control them, which is kind of what happens in like abusive relationships. Why people don't feel like they can leave an abusive relationship is because they feel stuck, because they feel like they are in danger, or they're completely dependent on their abuser. And I don't know, that really kind of like resonated with me this morning. I'm like, man, that makes sense. So
Yeah, I appreciate that, Pyle. Thanks for jumping in, bro. Always appreciate your perspective on things. Don't stay away so long the next time. Have a good day. I Hi, AD. I wanted to bring you up because I
Hey.
thought it was I don't I'm assuming you were able to witness that exchange.
Yeah, that was difficult.
Yeah, so the reason I asked you to come up is just because I think this is a good opportunity for folks to, to see. We talk about, willful ignorance and cognitive dissonance all the time, and it was really Subway, everybody, if you wouldn't mind. We talk about it all the time, and I think it would really help people understand because we saw it. Really, we saw. We talk about the broken brain scenario. I mean, he himself was in his own. You could see it. He was convincing himself that what we
Yeah,
were telling him was correct, but he did not know how to respond to it. So then there was a whole bunch of other
word
flowery
salad.
language that,
Hmm.
yeah. So it's almost like there's this fantasy that they've created that the right, again, they've been very effective. They've been able to convince voters, just like ghosts, that this fantasy is real. Oh, we'll just America first. We'll close the doors. We'll pull the dome over it, and we're good. We'll
Right.
produce everything we need here. We
Doesn't that
got you.
feel so good to think that? Doesn't that feel so safe and predictable, and that American exceptionalism, and yeah, it feels really good for your brain, and it's really hard to then accept new information that will then have you having to say, "Oh, I was wrong about that." That can be pretty scary.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even a question of like it's not a question of right or wrong. It's just the lack of willingness to understand,
Right, but to
right? I mean,
admit to yourself that you've maybe misread something or misheard something or misconceptualized something, whatever that is, like
yeah,
that's too much for the identity ego to take
yeah,
sometimes.
and something that our guest right after had mentioned about, like, trying to dumb it down. I did the best I could to try to dumb it down. So I think for people who maybe there's some advice from a therapist perspective that you might be able to offer people, because Thanksgiving's next week. So maybe some
Right.
conversations around the dinner table. Like, I don't, it's going to come across as condescending. Like, I know he probably felt like I condescended him. I tried desperately hard not to, but there's just at some point there has to be a willing to accept it. And oftentimes he, unlike many, was literally at the point. Like, he was talking about it. Yeah, we don't have the labor force now. Yeah, no shit. we,
Well,
we know we don't.
here's how I want you to be encouraged by that whole exchange, though, because you did the thing that I would say anyone should focus on. You probably gave him a few more like facts than he could digest all at
Mm,
once, so that was
true.
part of it.
That's
But
true.
but but your methodology was solid in that you were kind of just leading him down the road to help him see how he was lied to,
Yeah.
right? And that's really the task. If you do want to take the emotional labor to have conversations with people, because again, you don't have to. I, for one, want to have these conversations because people are getting their information from all over the place these days. It's a lot about that article I sent you with the ambiance of information, right? So if you're going to
Yeah.
have these conversations, the information that people have gotten, they're going to believe, right? They're just going to hold that. But if you can help them see how they were lied to, if you can take them down the path of like just coming at it from a place of, I get where you thought you were going. I get what you thought you were doing, and because if you come at them with information that doesn't fit in the framework they've already developed, they're just going to bat it down like our friend Ghost did. Like his framework that he had conceptualized the rightness of the world he believes in, he couldn't accept what you were saying. Like it just wasn't going to work. That cognitive dissonance was strong.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard to so again, if we look at it strictly from the the human emotion perspective, right? It's wonderful to want to believe this fantasy that we can do it all ourselves. I alone can fix it. Think about that's a message that's come from Donald Trump. I
Sure.
alone can fix it. That message. By the way, we're streaming on YouTube. Hello, hello, YouTube. If you're over there, please subscribe, like, comment, share. You know the drill. When you follow that lead to say, yeah, American excellence, we can do it bigger and
Doesn't
better
that
than
feel
anybody
good?
else,
Yeah.
right? It's easy to fall into that trap, but when you start to apply simple logic, and I would encourage everybody, and I'm glad that that Pyle said that, because if you focus on the labor side of it, it's hard to refute it. Just so put them on blast, so to speak, tactfully, if you will. We don't have the labor force to do what we need to do now, and the Trump administration wants to mass deport 10 million people.
Yeah.
So
And that's
it
a
just
whole lot of
math ain't mathin'.
conversation, right? But that's a very complex topic. Everything about the things that are going on in our world today are complex topics. It takes some actual effort to understand. Like you have to do some reading, you have to consume some information in order to make an informed opinion, and informing yourself takes some work, right?
Yeah,
People just don't they don't do that these days.
that's right. Yes,
And
Austin Albert 420. Yes, same name on YouTube. You actually can find the link to my YouTube channel that's in my Discord, or in the link tree that's in my bio. Suber, how are you this morning? Suber Truber, coming off the Mamma Mia show last night. Okay. You
I
can
can't wait for pictures and video, but by the
working on
way,
it. Working on a
break a
whole.
break a leg for our daughter.
I have to vet them through my daughter's agent before I
Of
can share
course,
anything publicly.
as you should. Yes, as you
Exactly.
should.
Sweet Uncle Rory, how are you today?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone. First off, I just wanted to point out I'm calling you from Britain. I live in a county called Shropshire, on the border of Wales, but I do have dual citizenship with the United States. I lived in Baltimore for a number of years. I attended Johns Hopkins University. I received a master's degree in biomedical engineering with a
You
focus.
sure you don't want to revoke your U.S. citizenship at this point?
On the contrary, my friend.
Okay.
On the contrary, I know everyone is struggling over there, but I never let anyone's opinion define the reality, right? Life is a, to me anyway, life is a canvas of many strokes where the opportunities and possibilities are endless. And I know you all feel defeated by the adversity of life that you felt last week, and now you're having moments of self-doubt. But remember that inside of you, you have this power to rise above any situation or struggle, and you can transform it into.
Rory, I want to jump in for just a second. It's
All
not
right.
about feeling. It's not about feeling defeated. It's the fact that there's people in our society that have already been under threat. And now there's leaders in our country who've targeted these individuals. So for those of us who live on Empath Island, we feel their pain. So we can't just write that off because that's real. Women's rights, rights for the trans community, rights for the LGBTQA community, education, teachers, you name it. Parts of our society have already been under threat, and now it's just going to get worse.
I think you make a good point. The fact that Congress does not want men in women's bathrooms, I don't see a problem with that. I think when it feels like you're being pushed by the
Well,
winds of life.
it's the trans issue that the Congress is turning into something that is already nothing. And this, by the way, trans women have been using bathrooms in Congress all during the Trump administration. Let's just be careful with our language there, okay?
Very well. I just think that the strength of your will and the courage of your spirit, the depth of your character, these are the compass points that can guide you all. I know you. Look, I've been a supporter of Donald Trump from afar. I have, and You know,
Why?
I'm glad you asked me that question. I'm
Yeah.
glad you asked me that question. The
And let's
answer,
try to make it on a relatively small doses of conversation. I appreciate your education, but we don't need to monologue. Okay, so let's just try to make it brief.
okay. So you seem very sensitive. I'm trying to just give you my point of view. You
I'm
seem very
not sensitive,
defensive.
sir. I'm not gonna. I just don't allow anybody to monologue.
Yeah,
So if you
just
want
land
to
the
use,
plane, my
yeah,
guy.
just
No,
land the
no
plane.
international
Exactly.
flights here,
Yep.
nonstops.
I'm trying. You keep interrupting me.
Do better.
You know, the problem here is, look, Donald Trump. You're asking me why. My father once told me that being a man doesn't
Okay, the
mean.
plane is circling again. If you get to the point, Rory, or we can move on.
I'm
Why did you
trying.
vote? Why do you support Donald Trump?
I'm trying because to me anyway, with Donald Trump, true manhood isn't about never failing. It's about standing up every time you fall.
Manhood?
You
Exactly.
Okay,
gross.
goodbye.
Oh no, 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 no.
Oh, that was going to lead me so perfectly into dunking on his
I'm sorry,
face.
Lainey. I couldn't deal with it.
All the red flags.
They were out of
All
peanuts
the
and
red
salty
flags.
pretzels on the flight, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
You.
Oh, but he teed me up so well.
Well, I'm sure he's
That's
listening
okay.
because he obviously loves to stare in the mirror and listen to himself talk. So you can feel free to provide some
Well,
Yes.
it
content.
required asking him what a man is, and so he's not here to stumble through that. So, um, anyways, I'm heading into work right now, so I'll save it for the next dummy that comes up here and tries to call me a man. So,
Thank you, Lainey. I appreciate you
all
very
right.
much. Have
Yeah,
a
we'll
good
see you
day, my
later.
friend.
Mm.
See you later. Bye. Oh my gosh. Wow.
See, that's the thing. I just that's the thing. I don't think, and to go back to Ghost, I don't think Ghost really under. I don't think it was about the economy for him. Really, I think he thinks that what he thinks it was about, but it wasn't.
No, exactly. I mean, and I mentioned this earlier, and I think I mentioned this earlier this week. So, um, I think historical context is necessary when you attempt to explain things. So we have historical context, and again, MAGA does not like to be associated with Yahtzee Germany, but you know what? I don't give a fuck. Comparison's real. Okay,
Yeah,
Schmittler sold his people on economic reform in Germany.
a
He
chicken in
sold
every pot.
exactly. He sold hearts and minds. Sound familiar?
Hmm.
He wanted to gain the trust in the hearts and the minds of the German citizens, and he did it through economic reform. He did it through violating the Versailles Treaty numerous times, and because there was this isolationist attitude in America, we ignored it, and
Right.
thus the creation of the Reich. So he sold his citizens on the economic reform and the fatherland becoming, a superior power once again. He sold his people on that. He test drove the anti-Jewish sentiment early on, and it failed miserably because Jews in Germany were integrated fully into the society. Marriages were happening, businesses. The Jewish community was doing extremely well in Germany. So he tried that, didn't work. So he ignored it for many, many years. Meanwhile, always behind the scenes, he and Joseph Goebbels were working on this propaganda machine
The
so
seeds
that
were being planted.
exactly. So he knew exactly when was the time to strike. He'd gotten the hearts and the minds of the German citizens, and then it was we're
Well,
gonna go after the Jews. The night of broken glass, Kristallnacht. So
and that's
they overturned. He unleashed the SS. He unleashed the Gestapo, and then the German citizens bought into it because they were then told, because they trusted him so much. Again, trust in me, the snake from Jungle Book, right? Trust in me, and he got them
Steve.
convinced that no matter what he said was right. Sound familiar? And then all
Yes.
of a sudden, the Jews became the quote enemy from within, poisoning the blood. This shit is real. It's happening. And because of the lie that was told, and Ghost is a perfect example, convincing them that it's about the economy when it's literally about saving the whiteness in our society, period, in their minds.
No notes. Yeah.
It's crazy. This is the reality that you guys have now voted for, right? It's never been about the price of a dozen eggs, gallon of eggs.
Or a
Hi,
gallon of
Jessica.
them.
How are
Oh my
you?
gosh. Can you hear me okay, Steve?
Gotcha. Yes.
Okay, first of all, I just want to say just thank you for everything. You've really gotten me through this horrible time that we've all been experiencing the last few weeks.
Thanks for saying that.
Um
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so when Ghost was up, the person after him came up and was just basically like saying, "Hey, you might want to dumb it down even more for some of these people." It kind of got me thinking, and one of the things that I've always kind of gone back to is just like, do you think that part of the reason why these people flock to MAGA and everything is because of the marketing? Because sometimes
Yep.
whoever came up with that red hat,
Yep.
they have to be making bucks. Because I think for me, it just makes sense that the poorly educated tend to flock to something that's easy to hold on to. That red hat is a symbol.
It's not just the red hat, Jessica. So as I have a marketing and promotions background, right? It's about the catchwords. It's like
Yeah.
think about some of the best ad campaigns in our history.
The
Nike's
big
Just Do
sloppy
It.
notions.
Exactly,
Mhm.
just do it. Where's the
Mhm.
beef? So they turn that into stop the steal, fuck Joe Biden, lock her up. Consumable, easy to remember, digestible, and then you put the red hat on top and you're part of something. You get your flag, you're part you're more then you're in the club. Then you stand around in the corral with the other sheep, and no matter what, how hateful the rhetoric is, you've bought in. So
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
Yes. And I guess my question would be
Yeah,
for
drill
that.
baby drill, another example.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yes, exactly. And I guess my question for all of this would be, how do we on the other side of things, how can we reach out to those people at all when they are, yes, the poorly educated, the dude bros, the misogynists? How do we even touch them when they have something like that? Like, how can we kind of have our own thing for that? It just seems like nothing ever sticks like something like MAGA.
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'm working behind the scenes with hopefully some large announcements that I can maybe make in the near future here. That I'm not yet there yet. I don't think it's the messaging from the left, quite frankly. And I
Okay.
thought really long and hard about that. And I've also been a person who said, "Oh yeah, it's the left's messaging." The way, and let me explain it to you. When you have human rights on your side, as fractured as democratic politics are, liberalism in supporting marginalized communities, whatever they are, and you're standing 10 toes down, you're advocating for the rights of others, you're never going to lose that moral argument ever. So why
Right.
should we ever relent on that? So I want to give people, I want people to feel good about that. We will always be on the correct side of history because we prioritize human rights. The
Yes.
issue is we just don't have enough messengers. And I've got a good visual that I can show. I mean, people have probably already seen this, but I found this on Wired magazine recently. So the right has this massive echo chamber, right? This was a study done about the reach on social media in particular. Names you'll recognize, names you'll know: Logan Paul, Ben Shapiro, Jake Paul, Elon Musk, right? Andrew Tate. Powerful, powerful, powerful reach. The left has it as well. They've got people, but names you don't know as well, right? There's a
Right.
few you'll recognize: Harry Sisson, Brian Taylor Cohen, David Pakman. But when you lay their impact side by side, this is what you get: absolute domination from right wing social media circles.
Mm-hmm.
Domination, obviously headlined by Elon. So the issue is not necessarily the message, it's the messengers. We don't have as many. So
Yeah.
that's part of the project that I'm working on to try to shake things up so that we have a resource for people, like you could say, human rights now, women's bodies matter, protect trans kids. There's things that we can do, but it doesn't resonate the same way,
Yeah.
right? Because when you're fueled by hate, and Amy Don can speak to this, when the amygdala is fired up, it doesn't matter. I mean, Ghost is a perfect example. I mean, I could have spent all day talking to him, and we could have abbreviated the conversation to 5 minutes because nothing would have changed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, those short, quippy slogans activate your emotions and it makes them stick.
Yeah.
And we
And
just
once they
need.
have that, there's no getting
Mhm.
through to them. It's like once it's registered in their brains,
Yep,
nothing can get through to that.
very much
Yeah,
so.
it's true.
There's an article I post, and I think it's just in our mod family, so I should put it in. I'll put it in the live sources. It's the opinion piece, Steve, from in the New Yorker, that the ambiance of information
Oh yeah.
article. That was super interesting about this. Just this writer was talking about how we consume information as a society has shifted so much, and to where our side, our arguments are more intricate and nuanced, I guess, because yes, we've studied things, and so our education is what it is, and just the broad swath of the country just doesn't consume information like us in this space, you know?
And
Right.
they want to get rid of the Department of Education. So
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's a feature, not a bug. Like his appointments, that's a whole other conversation. Like that's a feature,
That's
not
the
a
whole
bug.
slew. Yep.
You know, there's a reason he's putting completely unqualified people in charge of those positions, because he's not interested in having anybody actually lead those
Yep.
departments.
They're just following their blueprint that they
So,
claimed that they had nothing to do with.
Yeah, and I've said this before, and I want to make sure everybody understands this. Like, I don't want the system to fail, because I know, as somebody who's paid attention to this and somebody who's an empath and is part of a community of empaths, right? We know that if our society fails, the people that are already the ones that are impacted the most are gonna feel it the hardest. You know, cis white hetero male in society, my life likely won't change much, but marginalized communities, you know, BIPOC community, members of the LGBTQA community, the infirmed, the disabled, children that are on IEPs, things like that, those are the people that are going to be harmed the most when the system fails. And that system also includes people who voted for the red hat.
Yeah.
And it almost has to happen for them to potentially realize what's happened, right?
Mm.
So that's the fear that I have. By the way, Amy Dunn, you've been tasked with doing mod announcements when you're done.
oh my heavens.
So, does that help at all, Jessica?
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. It's just, you know, it's living in this reality that is so frustrating, and it just sometimes feels very helpless.
Keep the faith.
Well, you can
I'm trying. I'm trying.
keep having conversations to the degree you want to take it on. Just keep having conversations, because one of the important things we need to realize is people need to get their information from other than these types of spaces. Not that any information here isn't great, but like, you know, just to the point of how people consume everything, the most important influence you have is within your circle of influence. So if you
Yes.
you feel you want to take some agency back in this whole thing, have the conversations. And I know
Well,
Steve doesn't want to break bread with people. Like, I get that too. But
I understand that.
yes, you have
Yeah,
to
and
discern between who it is that you want to put that energy into. But
yeah,
to the ones that you can figure out that are willing to even have a crack and listen, have a conversation about, hey, I get what you were trying to do. Here's how you were lied to.
yes. And one last thing I'll say before I head out.
Sure.
I did have one of those conversations very recently, about a month ago before the election, with my dad, who's been a longtime Republican. And Steve, back when you were still, you know, talking to these people daily, trying to, you know, see if you could get them to see the light in
Yeah.
a sense,
Yeah.
you had said something in a conversation with someone about, you know, don't vote for you, vote for your daughters. And I kind of put that perspective in my dad's head, and he did not vote for Trump.
That's a
And
win.
it's a win, even though it
There you
didn't turn
go.
out how we wanted. I still count that as my biggest win.
That's a big one.
See, you got influence. You have more power than you realize.
Here's the visual, Jessica. You know, like when you drop a pebble in the pond, right? It's
Mhm.
it's that small circle, and then the more small circles, the bigger the circles get, right? That's kind of what we can hope for.
And you
So
got no idea who he may have talked to.
exactly.
I'm
Because
trying to keep
because
that
of
in mind.
yeah, because of your influence. You never know what you don't know about that.
Appreciate
Yeah.
you, Jessica. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you,
Thank you
friend.
so much, guys. I appreciate it.
You got it. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
You too.
All right, we
AD's going
got
to do mod announcements. I'm going to bring up
yes,
Cage. Go for it.
1.1K up in here. Everybody, please, let's power tap, get to 200K. That always helps too. If you have a little coin to spare, tap that little heart. That helps engagement, helps push to the FYP. We want to keep having these conversations because it's so important. If you do want to hit that little share, that's always helpful as well. If you just hit share and hit copy link, that counts as a share if you don't want to share with anybody. But why wouldn't you want to share
Sharing
with
is caring.
everybody? Because we love this community, and we need to keep having these conversations because we do have power, and this information gets out there. We're influencing people, and you are influencing people by sharing and tapping and engaging. So thank you so much for being here. We know there's a lot of people out there that you can interact with. We appreciate that you're here doing it with us.
Thank
With
you, AD.
that,
And so just
hello, Paige.
the
Good
conversation.
morning.
Hang on one second, Kate. The conversation in the mod chat right now, chat. Just so you know, if you guys aren't power tapping, they're coming for you. I won't tell you who, but you don't
Itchy
want
trigger
that.
fingers.
Exactly. So thank you. Hi, Cage. Good morning. How are you,
Good
friend?
morning. I'm good. How are you guys? I just wanted to add to this. Um, one of the things I think is important coming from the African American community and how we operate, sometimes you got to move in silence. And I think that we're not going to beat the squeaky wheels because there's just too many people who they're able to hit their pain points. So part of what I think needs to happen now is people need to connect, but we need to do it in silence because I can tell you as a community that the Magas are obsessed with. They're just obsessed with us. I mean, I can't go on a live where we're having basically a black town hall meeting where they do not come and attack our lives. So some of this has to be done in silence. Some of this has to be done where we find ways to connect via email. We might have to have a website. There might have to be just a grassroots thing. Because I can tell you that right now, these people are coming after our lives with a vengeance. Anything we put out, they're getting our lives shut down. They're threatening people. They're doing all these crazy things. So, my suggestion is to start an email campaign before everything switched over to Lemonade. And the reason why I say this is because that's highly effective. Because when you start doing these types of campaigns, these people can't monitor. And if they do try to get information, it's going to be hard for them to hide who they are based on the fact that everybody will be meeting on a different medium. So my suggestion is, like I said, it's time to do certain things in silence because we're not going to rise above the den with these people. Okay. Now it's true. Some of them can be reasoned with. I had a friend who was a truck driver and yeah, some, but he was a truck driver. Well, he is a truck driver and he was going to vote for 45. Okay. And I told him, I said, before you do that, I want you to read what Project 2025 says about veterans because he gets all of his medical care through the VA. So a lot of it is education, but you have to figure out, and Steve, we're both business people. I'm getting my MBA in international business.
You go.
You have to hit the pain points in our community too, because we sat up there in joy and happiness. That wasn't enough. We have to hit the same pain points. You have to talk to people. You have to put them in somebody else's place that they care about. Just like she said, she talked to her father, do it for me.
Get that emotion.
Yeah. My parents, my father voted for Harris. My dad is a boomer. Okay. This needs to be, we need to use similar strategies. We just need to go about it a different way. But like I said, we always say in my community, gangsters move in silence. And sometimes you have
I've been
to do
saying
that.
I've been saying that. We've been talking about that in our house. My kids have said the same. Mom, we're just moving in silence. Look at Kamala. Even she's moving in silence.
Yeah,
right
we
now.
have to do that. If we don't do that, because I'm going to be blunt, they're watching us. I mean, we look at the Southern women talking about how liberal women, and that's a dog whistle for Black women, are going to jump them. And I'm thinking, I don't have the time, inclination, or the energy.
And
I
not
really
for
don't.
not for nothing, but you will never know if I'm going to jump you. We do not. Well, what one creator said, we do not have a jump organization squad. We do not
No,
have
right.
a.
and
We do
nobody
not.
says jump anymore. I mean, my thing is this. I look at it like this. If you attack me personally and you get physical, yes, I will throw hands because I will protect myself. I will protect my children.
Sure.
But I'm not going to go up and pick a fight with someone. That sounded so immature. That was so mean girl high schoolish that I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that had to have been something she made
It's
up.
even more insidious than that, though. That just speaks to the that's just violent rhetoric again.
Yeah.
Very just
Part of
ick.
I
The
think
ick of
part
it.
of the struggle that I've seen, Cage, I get you. I mean, and
Mhm.
Edie and I are friends off the app, and we've had many conversations. She's had to talk me off a ledge or two, um, but it's only
I
because
did.
I've made this decision that I'm not going to break bread. You have to come to me. Why should I go to you?
Right.
So to your point, I've had these conversations. I've tried to talk to people when I try to connect with dads. Hashtag girl dad. I'll ask this question: are you a father? Yes. You're a father of a daughter? Cool. We're girl dads, right? Yeah. Love your daughter, right? Yeah. Everything for your daughter, of course. Not that we wouldn't do everything for our sons, but those of us who are girl dads, you get it.
Mhm.
So it's like, would you do anything for your kid? Yes, I would. Would you give them your blood, your lung? Would you throw yourself in front of a bus? Of course I would. Would you vote for them? Yeah, well, no, that's a little different. It's that disconnect. So yes, I try to get them to the emotional point to be able to look their daughter in the eye. Because then I say, I'll make it even harder. So then I want you to walk up to your daughter tomorrow that you love so much, your little baby girl that you would do anything for, and say, just so you know, I voted for a rapist. Well, I wouldn't do that. That would never be a conversation I would have with my daughter. I'm like, of course not. So
Well, Steve,
that's that disconnect, you know?
you have to understand. I remember I was in an interracial marriage, and my ex-husband was the type of person it had to happen to him. There are just certain people where it has to happen. It's not real. And he was the type of person where just because he thought it made it so. And that's the problem. These people who
Just
think like
because he
this,
thought it made it so.
yes,
Say that again.
that's just
Yep.
because he thought it made it so. And the
Right.
problem with many of these people is that, oh, that'll never happen to me. That'll never happen to my kids. That'll never happen to my wife. That'll never. And that's the issue. I mean, I'm an SA survivor. And when I told my ex-husband this, he was like, oh, you're one of the bravest women I've ever known. And I'm sitting there thinking, but you won't vote for laws that will protect me and our daughters. I don't understand this. It's still one of those things where if it doesn't affect them directly, if it doesn't happen to them, they just don't see it as their issue, because there's that mindset. It's not going to happen to my baby girl. It's not going to happen to my child. It's not
Of
going to
course not.
happen to my mother. It's
Of
not.
course
And
not.
so now look at what's going on with the people who are Googling, can I change my vote? Will he really take my overtime? You know, what are tariffs? And now people are like, what do you mean he's going to get rid of the workers' rights that FDR put in? This is what you
NLRB.
voted for. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is what you voted for. And
Not to
yet,
Exactly.
mention installing the author of Project 2025 in his cabinet.
yes.
Right.
And when you
Multiple
tell
authors.
people this,
Right.
many of these people that I knew who were conservatives kept saying, oh, he's not a part of 2025. That I heard that consistently from a lot of the conservatives I knew. Oh, he's not part of that. He's not. Y'all are
Yeah, I
lying.
mean, my time to shine makes the great comment, and I was talking about this yesterday. They didn't know that ACA and Obamacare were the same thing.
Oh,
So that's
no.
what we're dealing with
Yeah,
here.
just I've seen so
To
many
the point,
people say
yeah.
that, talking about, I'm glad he's going to get rid of Obamacare, but I hope he doesn't touch the ACA. Now, I used to sell insurance for years. I sold life, health, and annuities, and I told people when the ACA was coming through, some people's insurance was going to be sky high, some people's wasn't, and the dirty little secret was people didn't know the insurance companies had written the bill, and so we kept telling people, you know, be careful, you want this, but really look into it. I think the bigger problem is, and Steve, I think I sent you this video in your DMs. You need to watch it. There's a young man who connected some dots where I'm hoping this isn't the reality, but he made a good point about the reason why they want to get rid of the Department of Education is because all of those red states will provide cheap labor.
Of course.
Yeah.
They'll provide cheap labor, and you know they have the
And
prison system.
and then once they kick out immigrants, they'll turn to the prison population.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So
and,
yeah, no
and
doubt.
poor white.
And they'll have plenty of people in prison with the new, buildings for camps that they're building.
Well,
They'll
not
have
Exactly.
just
plenty of-
that. Not
Yep.
just that. They're not going to deport anybody because they're going to turn them into free labor. Let's be honest, because
That's a good
it's
point.
that's too many people to try to deport. Now they're just trying to pander to their base, but there are people who are posting about FEMA camps that they see all over the country. There's somebody in Texas who just said he would give President
Yep.
Trump 14,000 acres.
14,000 acres.
What this is they found the loophole to be able to keep people.
And that's state land, right?
Yeah.
Like that's 14,000 acres of state property. is what
Exactly.
they're
And
saying.
I saw
Yeah.
this coming with DeSantis. I'm aside from being a business person, I also have tech degrees. Okay. So I'm a very left brain thinker. And I thought to myself, DeSantis said he was going to arrest all the illegals. And that got me thinking, all right, if he arrests them, he can put them in the prison system and then they can work the same jobs they were working outside the prison system, but they all fled. And you saw what happened. And I was like, you know what? I'll bet you anything. The reason why they're saying this is because they're going to do the same thing, make it so that if you are not here, quote unquote, legally,
Sure.
they can put you in jail and then they'll put you out in the
Yeah,
same
I mean,
jobs that you were working.
It's going to justify. I mean, and I want to move on to somebody else, Cage. But thank you for jumping in. But before you go, I think it's to what you're talking about. It's the justification. Now it goes back to the conversation we had with Ghost before, where I've been saying we don't have the labor. Well, you create the labor.
Yes.
You pay them as these prison wages to
Yeah.
produce these things, and then our society becomes what they want. But again, Cage, thanks for jumping in today, friend. I appreciate it as
Have a
always.
great one, guys.
You too. See you later.
See you, Kate.
Hey, John, you had something you want to talk about?
Good morning. I just wanted to. I just had a single question to ask you, and I just wanted to hear your thoughts. I mean,
Okay.
Amy could too as well. It's more about with in discussion about recent election outcomes. There's been a lot of focus on misinformation, voter suppression, or conservative strategies, or Democrat or progressive strategies. But do you think there's space among that for self accountability among liberals and Democrats? Specifically, could the way that some on the left engage in online debates, some often leaning heavily on inflammatory rhetoric or berating dissenters, be driving people away rather than fostering understanding? To me, I think, and to me, this has happened from what I've seen on certain lives, but I think this approach might alienate others, and it unintentionally creates the barriers to the, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase, creating barriers to the very progress they aim to achieve. And I just want to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So, if we saw a significant jump in the amount of votes that Trump acquired, I might say there might be some truth to what you say, but he's going to end up with the same amount of votes that he got the last time. The issue specifically is that, and I'm not accusing you of this, John, but the tone policing that we get, the fact that Donald Trump is a fascist, he is a racist, he is a sexual predator, he is a fraud, he is a felon. These things are real, and I don't care if people don't like to be associated with people like that, because without calling it out, then it just becomes accepted. If you see something, say something. I think the issue specifically is not that level of rhetoric. I just think that there's not enough voices on the left that are reminding people, that are pushing back against the massive amount of voices on the right. Because I could say this, the right's messaging, there's no accountability in their party whatsoever. None. It doesn't matter that members of his cabinet are adjudicated sexual predators. It doesn't matter all the corruption, the lies, the deceit, the violence against kids. None of that matters, because they mask it with attacking marginalized groups. So if we're going to talk about, and again, I'm not accusing this of the John, if we're going to talk about the rhetoric game, then the rhetoric game at the right plays is based on lies, misinformation, deceit, and hate. The rhetoric game that the left plays is calling out lies, misinformation, hate, and deceit.
Okay. And I just, do you think that a reflection of that, where there was a lack of Democrat voters, especially for the popular vote, and it wasn't a huge majority. I mean, I think now it's up to 74 million, as per the last cycle was 81 million. Do you think that there was some type of play about what you had just stated about voices not being brought out, where it's not, people aren't hearing the message? Do you think that it was either there was a lack of voice, or maybe that there was a little too much, I'd say heat between the two political factors in the past 4 years, like between conservative and or I'd say conservatives and progressives?
No.
Do you think that there was too much of a heated, conversation, to where it was no longer a conversation, but more of just beratement from both sides?
No, I think Democrats. I think Democratic voters feel entitled. I think Democratic voters, because the tent is so big, if their message doesn't resonate with that individual in that tent, they tend to be apathetic. I think our country is loaded with racists and bigots and misogynists, and they exist on both sides. Doesn't matter the color. I think that's part of the issue. I think I will always lean on the fact that when one side, the right, Maga, won because they had Russian influenced media, which we know, Russian propaganda spreading like wildfire through the massive cloud of misinformation and outlets that they have online. You couple that with a black woman running for president. We can compare. Donald Trump lost to Joe Biden, but beat Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris. That is not a coincidence. Again, if you want to put, like I said this earlier, it's not the message, it's the lack of messengers. I am not going to stop calling out hate, because as soon as we do that, then we might as well just say it's not a deal breaker. I'm going to call out the lies and the misinformation. I am going to associate people who voted MAGA with fascists and with racists and with bigots because they've decided that those things are not deal breakers.
Do you think that, and I'll use an example right here, and this is just questioning, just posing, because again, I'm just gathering your thoughts.
That's fine.
Do you think that how I would say we can agree that people are often indoctrinated into their environment. And I think, Dean or Parker are prime examples of being indoctrinated by their environment. They were Trump supporters before they took the initiative upon themselves to decide to be more left-leaning and then progressive and then liberal.
They weren't Trump supporters. They just grew up in conservative houses.
And that's what I'm getting at. Well, actually, Dean was. They both talk about being Trump supporters. I think it was just Dean then, maybe. But regardless, Dean talked about how he was a Trump supporter and grew up in very conservative households, and they were indoctrinated.
I just want to clear that up, though, John. That's not what he said. He said he grew up in a conservative household. It would have been easy for him to be a Trump supporter.
I thought Dean said he was, but I thought there was a clip of him saying that. Regardless, I'm not claiming that he is one now. I'm saying.
I want to flip the script a little bit because I've answered your question. So can you tell me who you voted for?
If I stated that I voted for Trump, would that change the tone of the conversation?
No, I just would like to know.
I see. Apologies, sorry, I'm at work. I'll go with the example. Yeah, I voted for Trump. Why not?
Well, did you? I don't want to play hypothetical. I mean, did you?
It's just I don't know the tone of the conversation. I was in a live just before yours. It was actually with Jay, FactsStillMatter. Ironically, you have FactsStillMatter, which is funny. Just the names, but when gauging him and whether.
Why don't you give me a chance, John? Why don't you give me a chance?
Sure, I'll say I voted for Trump.
So, did you, or are you going to say that you did?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I voted for Trump.
Okay, so I guess the question and I appreciate your argument. I think it's a fair assessment to talk about rhetoric, but would you deny that the rhetoric coming from MAGA is hate driven?
Yes, I would agree. I would not just hate driven, but I believe there is a consensus of just equal of hatred and rhetoric and inflammatory responses. I think people on the right are actually a little more uneducated about politics in general because they rely more on what they experience rather than going online and finding out what those policies are.
Okay. So then so everything that I said, do you disagree that Donald Trump is an adjudicated sexual predator?
And this is where I didn't want to go into a debate course.
And we're not debating. It's just questions. You ask me questions. Right? If you don't want to engage, John, you can leave. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's fine. It's questions. But I mean, if you don't want to have a conversation, we don't have to.
So if adjudicated, and I mean, are you saying adjudicated through civil court? Yes, he is liable for SA. That is conclusive. That is empirical. That is without a doubt a factual statement.
Okay. And so that was not a deal breaker for you to cast your vote.
It wasn't necessarily a deal breaker, right?
What does not necessarily a deal breaker mean?
The reason why it's not such a deal breaker is because if there was more direct physical evidence, I would 100% want him put away.
Okay, so can we talk that through? I want to talk that through for just a second.
Sure.
So what would physical evidence look like, John?
Direct physical evidence can be a few forms of things, but I'm talking more of
DNA, for instance. Would that be physical evidence?
DNA would have been physical evidence, but it's still
So Trump was given 3 years to turn over his DNA. He didn't. So I guess the reason I ask it that way, John, is because we hear this argument a lot. And I'm just trying. What I'm trying to find out here, and I'm not trying to put you in a corner, but I am going to ask you to defend your vote. So direct physical evidence. When I hear that I've asked people this question numerous times, and I'm saying, does that mean somebody would have had to have watched? And some people have said, yeah. Some people would have had to have seen it happen. So DNA would be direct evidence. Trump was given 3 years to turn over his evidence, and he didn't. So I guess I'm asking you, what would that be? What would that look like? What would direct evidence look like? And we can move off this topic, but I just want you to think about that. Okay.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I guess more from a law enforcement standpoint, right? I believe that if there is a claim, and it should be backed, and she was, she had people there to test for her character. She had a therapist,
witness, her
a
therapist, her
nurse,
friends, her story never changed,
witnesses
right?
that were just at the party, but
Right.
just
Well,
to
not a
clarify
party,
that.
not a party. Actually, it was the shop, the department store. But so again,
Right,
that was
right. I
not
apologize. I'm thinking
that
of
was
the.
that's okay. That was not a deal breaker for you.
No, what would have been a deal breaker would give me reasonable, like it would have given me reasonable doubt, right? Not beyond a doubt, like as it would, but it didn't give me reasonable doubt that it doubted Trump's
So,
character. I do think he can be inflammatory. I do think
but John, he told us that he does these things. He's bragged about it.
He's kind of got a pattern of being a really awful
Yeah.
person, John. Would you be friends with him? Would he be a person you'd be friends with?
I mean,
Does his character speak of someone that you would want to associate with and have around your family and be part of that?
well, I don't know. I'm not with him.
Do you
I
have
guess
to be
the
with
bigger
him
question, I
to
think the bigger
observe the
question
type of
apologize.
person he is?
I'm a
the
little
bigger question
aggravated.
that Amy's asking, I think, John, because when you came up, the premise of your conversation was, do you think the left and the progressive message about hate and all this, the targeted rhetoric, calling people Yahtzees and things like that, and you
Right.
asked me if I thought that that was a case, and I said no, I don't, because we're calling it like we see it. So now, when I'm
Mhm.
asking you about the fact that you agree that Donald Trump is an adjudicated sexual predator, found liable in a court of law unanimously by a jury, which, by the way, ruled that he deliberately and forcibly penetrated her vagina with his fingers, and that's not a deal breaker for you. And you discussed indoctrination. So I would say, John, you've been indoctrinated into this cult because that's not a deal breaker for you.
I wouldn't say, again, civil court is a lot more complex in comparison to
The jury was unanimous.
The jury unanimously decided against Trump. And what often juries will do in this case, if one shows up and not treats the jury with respect, like, for example,
John,
Why are
not
you
gonna talk about- we're not
apologizing?
gonna talk
Why are
about-
you
yeah,
apologizing
again,
for a rapist, John? That's
yeah,
just
so,
not okay.
John,
Just stop it. Just stop it.
You're not, again, just stop,
Disgusting.
okay?
I don't see the issue here.
I don't give a shit. You're done. I don't care.
I'm sorry, I could only take so much of that condescending bullshit.
I agree. I mean, it's just this is going to be the tactic from people who think they're smart. Spin it any way you want. But here's the thing: I will call a fascist a fascist. I will call a bigot, misogynist, a sexist, a pig, a fucking rapist, and I will do it every day, all day. Because if that is not a deal breaker for you, veteran, and you took an oath to our country, and you support Donald Trump, I will call you a traitor, and I will do it to your face. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to be tone policed by the people. I really don't give a fuck. I really don't. But the irony of somebody attempting to soft shoe tornado when we have great apologists on our panel. And my apologies for carrying him as long as I did, but I think it was.
I knew where it was going when I actually admit it, and that's the telling thing, right? Because I would never not say, "Damn right, I voted for Kamala."
Exactly.
Ask me who we voted for. It's always them. Too embarrassed about then.
Exactly. J Biz, how are you today?
I'm doing well, and I just want to say I've been on the list heavily involved in drama.
Good place to be, right, friend?
Oh, absolutely.
Cool. Thank you for
So,
saying that.
what I want to talk about is the name Jamal Truelove.
I don't. Why does
You
it?
don't.
Why does it matter?
Okay. Well, that wrongfully,
She didn't convict
and sent him to prison.
Jabis. She didn't convict.
No. Okay, let me rephrase that. So she helped to secure the conviction
No,
against an
she did
innocent
not.
man.
She did
She
not.
was the
She followed who convicts in our court system.
judges
Or juries,
or
right?
jurors. Yeah.
So then she did not convict.
Well, what I wanted to talk about is everyone makes mistakes. You know what I mean? Trump's not a perfect person by any. Well, he's not a rapist.
Yeah, he's get the fuck out of here.
Oh God.
Good morning, Alex.
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
I'm well, brother.
Hey,
How are you?
Alex.
I just wanted to say, can we get more of the idiots up so slowly and are so evasive?
That's been the playbook the last month, right?
It is ridiculous. It's
Well,
one
Alex,
or the other.
here's
Those
the
are
thing.
two
I'm humble.
I know you are. I know you are. I know most of us on this side are. It's just, please, more of the idiots. They're much easier to deal with. They're much want to eliminate no-fault divorces. They want women to stay in abusive relationships. They're also trying to create an abusive relationship. They bring up these points. Oh, your rhetoric, this, that, the other thing. It is so obvious, and that's the entire population.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. That's all I wanted to point out. I just so infuriating.
I appreciate you, brother. I have it all day long, but this is America.
They're
Thanks, Alex. I
more
appreciate
afraid.
you.
You have a good one, Steve.
You too, buddy. See you later.
Yeah, Alex.
There, but I don't mean to be. But I am smarter than they are. They
I mean, we work to be, right? Like, I want to
proud of my
find out,
education.
want to put the effort in. Like, come on. It's really not that hard. Read more than a bumper sticker.
Yeah, I mean, again, if we want to take it to justify their obvious misogyny, sexism, and racism by saying, well, she convicted this guy. No, she didn't. Juries and judges convict. Well, she enhanced.
They're so obvious.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. It's just nuts. Anyways, they're I see Obi. I'll get you in a second, bro. Yeah, I know we are informed. Exactly. That's the goal. Got it. What's on
All
your
right.
mind?
Well, I've been listening, and I was thinking of gosh, I'm a little nervous, but let me start, and then I'll jump to when I was younger. My Irish grandmother, now gone, would always threaten my younger brother and I with the poorhouse. Fast forward some years later, and I'm speaking with this lovely
we tried this. Oh, are you still there?
Yeah, he's here.
Oh,
I'm here
okay.
too. Go ahead. We're
We
listening.
tried the poorhouse and it didn't work. And people need to know this stuff. And I wonder if we're teaching the right things in school. We should be teaching about the poorhouse. We should be teaching about anyone who's watched that show called The Midwife. When in the 1950s, England started sending midwives to the slums to help mothers deliver, instead of
punishing mothers, they were there to help. And these social programs worked. Didn't have to repeat these mistakes. I mean, didn't we all read 1984? Didn't we all read even Harry Potter and Voldemort? I thought we were a nation ready for we could sniff this out, and we haven't.
It's because it's been the long game, Blackwell. That's part been the loss of democracy by a thousand paper cuts.
Yeah.
It's been.
I hear the
going.
pain in your voice too,
Yeah.
Blackwell. It's like
Well,
I hear the brokenheartedness because I felt the same way, and I know Steve has too. About like I really thought we were.
I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. I have a lot of trans friends. I'm scared for them. They are nervous. I'm just so concerned that people get tricked by this nonsense. It really confuses me, and I'm in trying. And every New Englander gets brought to the Salem Witch Trial Museum as a kid.
So true.
And you
So
get
true.
to learn how things can go terribly
They didn't
wrong.
burn witches; they burned women.
And maybe if you don't know that people can go crazy, I called some weeks ago with a silly story. You guys probably didn't know what to make of me. In the days before regulation, the crazy things people would ingest because there wasn't regulation. And I feel like we're reached to get rid of COVID. We're back into this I don't know, like medieval kind of thinking would make them better.
Oh, I don't deny it. I mean,
And that scares the hell out of me.
you know what? It brings up something really interesting, Black memories for people during COVID. But if he had come out there on day one and said, "We're the United States of America. We're going to handle it," like,
sure.
He could have. It would have been an example, and he would have won the election in a friggin' landslide.
He would have had the entire country behind him.
He may
Exactly.
have
Instead, you run away because you're incapable of governing. So you got to find somebody to blame it on.
Yeah, and
because
then
look at what the pandemic did to us as a populace, right? We were inviting a leader that cared, that showed empathy. We would have emotionally tied ourselves to that bandwagon all day, but he missed that opportunity. And
is
instead,
it plan for him to adopt and in his hubris rejected it or got rid of it? Didn't Obama leave him some kind of
that pandemic response team?
I don't understand how this happened. I it's going to be Christmas soon, and Dickens finished writing that. He must have wiped his hands and said, "Well, I'm done. No one's ever going to make bad decisions again." Because are revealed. Well, that's just it. Just you be kind to your fellow man.
Yeah, instead we're stuck with.
Unfortunately, I unfortunately have pretty good job security as a mental health therapist because the human experience is what it is out there, and pain projects onto pain. So.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys taking my call. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Have
being
a great day.
Screaming at me. We'll bring up Bobby. Everybody, please continue to like and share the live. Tapping is clapping, sharing, caring. We're probably not on the FYP, so if I could ask your help,
we're not
please
being
consider.
mad enough.
Yeah, please consider
We're not
subscribing.
getting
Please
enough
consider
anger.
gifting. Please consider supporting the channel. get some cool merch, including some Christmas merch. And my favorite T-shirt of all time says, "So, Amy Dawn, ask me if I'm Zen, okay? Seriously." There's a T-shirt there that says that. Also, liberal scum, I dissent. Hashtag.
What?
Morning.
Greetings and salutations.
You guys want to hear some irony? Got COVID.
Hello, Cleveland.
No.
Yeah, so we might have to cancel tonight. So anyway,
I'm going to pause and take a cleansing breath before I break out the flamethrower. Because while you were trying to...
We can always count on you for napalm. Patty cake. The characterization.
Intellectual chuckle fuck who does not understand why you're culpable, complicit in waiters' lives. Yeah, I know you used to be a cop. Fuck cops. Fuck all cops. I hate cops because cops hate fucking people, and racially profile people because it's full of bigotry and hatred, just like you, John. And to that other old cue where you stand, we are not going to hold spaces for you. The patriarchy is dead. Fuck all of you. On behalf of the Republic of California, I would like to say goodbye to all of you. Trump is about to fight all of the fresh fruit and vegetables you all have come to love and desire from our state will no longer be available that we raise here. Also, we will be taking the states of Oregon and Washington with us, and perhaps merging with Vancouver.
To come, please.
Listen, I love you.
Can Vermont come?
Bro, you guys have in big bold quotes special crop, so you'll be okay.
True, we'll be good. Yeah, we'll be good. That's a good point.
And special crop, you have really good dairies and maple syrup.
That's true. We're good. We're totally good. I agree.
To know all of you, I would say that I would miss you, but I won't because I live in California here. Because this is where the movement starts. No, seriously though. By the way, literally Gavin Newsom try me.
Yep.
Like, first of all, he's really easy to look at. I mean, he is a fucking handsome man. And I have said since so many years ago when I was a young guy that lived in the wine business. And I joked with him once saying that he was going to be the next great senator from California and saying that without a doubt he will be the next great president to come out of the state of California. And painful experiences, not for people that look like Steve and me, but for people that look like the people that we love and support.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that we stand for. Those are the people that we want to protect. And we know it's going to be difficult. And have a conversation. May I ask you some questions? No. Fucking school's dismissed. You may not ask how many months have we talked about the soft shoe approach?
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, I stole that from you.
You know, yeah, like, hey, go shove it off the buffalo. How you doing? Or swim, baby.
Yeah, whatever.
Now, the thing that I do love about you, though, is how you give them so much, but inside, I'm like, I've got the flamethrower ready. Like my tank is full, right? And then Amy Dawn, you're like, the fuck?
Yeah, I was getting the cyber kick under the desk from Amy Dawn.
But it got
your side your sideways stare shivered me. I was like, "Oh, this is the deal, right?" People keep asking, you know, do we have to do this? Do we have to do that? Break bread with these people. Go ahead. But ask yourself one simple question. Because I haven't seen it. I don't see these people coming to the VA for being VFW function, right, to support the community, to raise money. I don't see these people doing anything gospel. And the Jew named Jesus is going to come save them because they're going to repent their sins, and every sin you get consequences for being an adjudicated
I hate
essay.
to cut you off, but I have to end.
Yes, sir.
I gotta deal with the big emergency.
No world.
Do it. So I thank you both again. Sorry for the abrupt. Sorry guys for having to jump out early today. But let's do last words.
The go-go's.
But yeah, thank you. AD.
Tell our daughter break a leg, however nice sometime.
It may end up me behind the drum kit. There's a little we'll set to see how it goes. But anyway, thank you everybody for being here. We're gonna raid Mishi. Mishi's out there live. Tell her we sent you.
Mishi's out there.
Yep. No facts after dark tonight because of everything else that's going on.
Right.
Next day we'll do a regular live, and then we'll be off for the rest of the week for the holiday. If I don't see you